We're here in front of a cattail marsh, and I'm here to explain to you why we are interested in cattail. We scientists in the USGS and the National Park Service are concerned about the spread of cattail across the U.S. The plant has become very invasive in a lot of wetlands and along transportation routes such as roads, and so we're trying to figure out why it's spreading so fast. So you will have an opportunity, if you want, to participate in a citizen science and volunteer program. So what I have here is the cattail marsh, and I've actually wanted to tell you that we do this cattail monitoring in the summertime, and most of the time that's when the plants are full height, and they will also be producing their inflorescences. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a plant that I've already cut out of the marsh. We're doing this right now in fall, so this is really not the opportune time. But I did find some plants that were still green. And what we have here is, I cut these down at the base where they come out of the water. So when you do your measurement, one of the things we do with this project, we want to measure various aspects of this plant. One is the height. And so we have very simple tools that you need to measure the cattail. We have a meter stick. We do all the measurements in centimeters, so a meter stick is really good to have. And then we need a pencil, and a nice small ruler is always handy because it's easier to measure the leaves and some of the other features of the plant. And if we're going to be out in the marsh, ordinary, you should have boots. It's good to have boots to wear when you're going to be in the water. Sometimes the cattail's not growing in water, so you won't probably get your feet wet, but in most cases it's a wetland plant, so it's going to be in the water. And if you need to measure the whole plant, and it is in water, you probably want to cut the base of it. These are not protected plants, of course, and you can cut at the base of the plant where the stem comes out of the ground, because that will give you the full height above the ground, not above the water, but above the ground under the water. So I always bring a pair of scissors or something easy to cut the plant. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to demonstrate to you how you can do these measurements. We have a website that the USGS and Park Service has produced to enter data, and actually you could get data sheets. You can get data sheets off of this website. And you see in the bottom, that's where the website is located. The data sheets have all the information in there. They're pretty much explanatory, and the method is very simple. So what you do is you find your plant. You want a plant that has the inflorescence stalk. That is the part that's going to be reproducing, the brown cigar-shaped structure on it. You want a plant that has that with it, so you can get all the measurements as possible. And so what I did is I went to another marsh to get some plants that were still green. And you can see here, there's some variation in these plants. You see the inflorescence on this one is about 3 times the size, or 2.5 times the size of these other two. And those are the sorts of things you'll run into when you're doing your cattail monitoring. There's a lot of variation in these plants. So, what you do is first thing you do is you measure the whole height of the plant. Let's say we're going to eliminate this one because it's not part of a different plant. So we have an inflorescence in the stalks, the leaves here with this plant, and we measure the total height with the meter stick. So we have, put it this way. This is 1 meter, and then we have 100 centimeters plus 83 centimeters. So it's 183 centimeters tall at the tallest leaf. You want to measure the stem at the base. If you want to measure the diameter of the stem, it's easier to do when it's cut. Otherwise, you have to cut it and measure the diameter this way, but you can also measure the circumference, and you can calculate the diameter from the circumference. And I'm going to let you figure that out. So anyway, so you can measure the diameter, put it in centimeters here, the diameter of the stem. In this case, it's about 2.5 centimeters. You don't want to measure it up here on this inflorescence. That's not the true stem. That's the stem for the inflorescence. Okay, then you want to measure the leaves, the width of the leaves. So you find the width of the widest leaf, the widest part of the biggest leaf. So in this case, it looks like it would be this leaf, but it's broken off, but that's okay. Well, because these are brittle and they're dried. So I'm going to measure the width of this leaf. So this leaf looks like it's about 1.5 centimeters wide. Yeah, 1.5 centimeters. And then the next step, we're finished with the vegetative part. This is the vegetative part of the plant. We've measured the bottom, the stem diameter. We've measured the height of the plant, and we've measured the leaf width. Now the next thing to measure is this inflorescence. Now, we don't have the male. This plant has a male and a female inflorescence. And I'm going to use this one instead because it has a little more of the features. This is the female part. This produces the seeds, the fluff, that you can see in the background. You can see some of these plants have a lot of fluff on them. And those are the seeds that disperse and carry this plant miles and miles away to reestablish itself in some other wetland. Okay? Now, we have this. Then we have, this part is empty. This usually has a fluff on it in the springtime or early summer that produces the pollen. You've probably seen it. It's bright yellow. It's a stem part that sticks out about that far, and it's covered with pollen. Now, in between this female and the male part, the male produces the pollen, you will find a stem extension. We call this a gap, right here. If you can see that, you will see that there's a gap there between the male and the female. So, with the inflorescences, the flowers, what we do is measure the length of the female, which in this case is 11 centimeters. We measure the gap, we do the width of the female, which is, actually you could use the smaller ruler for this. Easier to handle. But we do the measurement of the width, and in this case it's about, this was cut so I have to measure it from 3. So this one's about 3 centimeters wide. And then we measure this gap, and the gap is about about 9 millimeters or 0.9 centimeters. Okay, so those are the measurements you take on the plant. It's as simple as that. It goes into the spreadsheet. You can download a data collecting sheet off that website that I showed you. If you want any more information, just contact me, joy_marburger, MARBURGER, @nps.gov, and I can provide you more detailed information. Another thing we do, another activity we like to do is collect pollen, because pollen is a way to identify these plants, whether they're hybrid or not, and that's the goal. We want to see if the native cattail is still around, because what's happening is that the cattail species are hybridizing and producing hybrids which are much more aggressive in wetlands. So that is why we are doing all this work. We're trying to figure out if we have any native cattail left in which part of the country.